State Legislative Council election. Counting of votes for one seat. Disclaimer: this training material is for use in training of election officials. It should not be referred as guideline of ECI. In case of any variance in this training material, the Commission guidelines, rules, laws shall prevail. Learning outcomes. At the end of the session, the participants will be able to discuss the procedure of counting of votes for one seat, find the value of vote, cite the formula for determination of quota essential for return candidate, know the procedure of distribution of votes of the excluded candidate after the count till one seat is filled, explain the Commission's instructions regarding recounting of votes. Counting of votes. The procedure of counting of votes for filling one seat is different from the procedure when more seats than one are to be filled. At an election where only one seat is to be filled, every valid ballot paper shall be deemed to be of the value of 1 at each count. For example, if 401 valid votes are casted, the total values of votes to be taken for the counting will be 401. So the number of votes secured by a candidate will be equal to the number of ballot papers having first preference. So let the seat to be filled is 1. Value of each vote is 1. If 401 valid votes are casted, then the total value of votes will be 401. So for a candidate A, if there are 45 valid ballot papers in the parcel having first preference, then the number of votes secured by a candidate A will be 45. Determination of quota for return of candidate. Quota shall be determined by the formula total number of valid votes divided by 2 then plus 1. Let's say if number of valid votes are 401, then quota sufficient to secure the return of a candidate will be 401 divided by 2 plus 1, that is 201. Remainder to be ignored. The minimum number of valid votes required for a candidate to be declared elected is called the quota. The quota calculation depends on the number of seats to be filled. If any candidate has secured votes, the value of which is equal to or greater than the quota sufficient to secure the return of a candidate as determined in the previous slides, such candidate shall be declared elected at the first count. So the candidate will be declared elected if the total values of the votes of that candidate is equal to or greater than the quota. Let's understand this with an example. Let the candidate in a fray is 3. The quota for winning the election is 201. Candidate A received 201 votes, so he will be declared elected. Candidate B received 90 votes, he will be eliminated. Candidate C received 110 votes, he will also be eliminated. So the candidate A will be declared elected and counting will be stopped. If no candidate is declared elected at the first count for the reason that no candidate has secured the quota, the further counting shall then be proceeded in this manner. The candidate who has been credited with the lowest value of votes at the first count shall be excluded from the poll. All the ballot papers in the parcel of the excluded candidate shall be scrutinized again with reference to the second preference marked on each such ballot paper. All ballot papers on which the second preference has not been marked at all or has not been validly marked in the prescribed manner as described earlier shall be treated as exhausted papers and shall not be counted further. A ballot paper shall also be deemed to have become exhausted wherever the names of 2 or more candidates, whether continuing or not, are marked with the same figure, which is next in order of preference. For example, 2 is marked against 2 or more candidates in second round. The marked figure is not following consecutively after some other figure on the ballot paper. That is, 3 or 4 etc. is marked in the second round instead of 2 against any candidate. The name of the candidate next in order of the preference, whether continuing or not, is marked by more than one figure. All unexhausted ballot papers, that is, ballot papers which are not treated as exhausted, shall then be distributed and transferred among the continuing candidates according to the second preference recorded on each such ballot paper. All ballot papers that are distributed to each continuing candidate shall be arranged in a separate subparcel for each candidate. The value of votes in each subparcel of the continuing candidate shall be credited to the candidate concerned. If by so adding the value of the additional votes credited to each continuing candidate, any candidate secures the quota, then he shall be declared elected. If no candidate secures the quota at the end of the second count, the candidate having lowest quota shall be excluded from the poll at that stage, and the unexhausted ballot papers in his parcel or subparcel will be distributed according to the next available preference. If this also does not help any candidate in securing the requisite quota, the above process will be further repeated until a candidate secures the required quota and is declared elected. If in the above process of exclusion of candidate lowest on the poll, all candidates but one get excluded and only one continuing candidate remain at the end of any count, then such candidate shall be declared elected even if he has not secured the sufficient quota. Let's understand this thing with an example. Candidates in a fray are 3. The quota for winning the election is 201. Candidate A got 171 votes, B 123 votes, C 107 votes. Though the candidate A has got the maximum number of votes, but no one will be declared elected because no candidate has got the necessary quota. Since candidate C secured the lowest votes, so he will be eliminated and his votes will be distributed among remaining candidates as per his second preference. If all his votes kept candidate B as their second preference, his 107 votes will be transferred to the candidate B. Now candidate B votes will be 230. Since candidate B has got the quota, so he will be declared elected. So after the second round, the candidate B will be declared elected. Unexhausted ballot papers are transferred to the different continuing candidates on the basis of next preference or next available preference recorded on each ballot paper. All preferences recorded for candidates who are already excluded from the poll shall be ignored. A proper record of the transfer of ballot papers of the excluded candidates is maintained as shown on the screen. On the completion of the counting of votes, returning officer is required to prepare a return of the election in Form 23B, which is shown on the screen. The result will be declared only after getting the permission from the Commission. The report will be sent to the Commission in the proforma as shown on the screen. Recount. The request for recount is not to be postponed till the completion of counting. Such a request can be made at any time during the counting of votes for all or any candidates. The request for recount can be made by any candidate or in his absence by his election agent or counting agent. Such a request cannot be made for the re-examination or recount of any ballot papers which have been set aside at any previous transfer as finally dealt with. Returning officer have discretion to recount the votes either once or more than once if returning officer is not satisfied as to the accuracy of any previous count. In this educational video, we have learned about the counting of votes in state legislative council elections having the election for one seat. If you have any doubt or want any clarification, then you can contact through the mail as shown on the screen. For other videos and rules and regulations, you can visit the web address as shown. Thank you.